Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the World Series of Board Gaming 2025. I'm Tom Vasel, and I got two guests with me today. We have
Timm Metivier.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Timm Metivier. I'm from Las Vegas, and I run Dice Tower West convention out here.
And I am Shawn Jackman. I work for Burnt Island Games and KTBG, and I'm from Toronto, but I'm happy to be here.
He neglected to say a Kenner Spiel winning studio.
Ooh, Kenner Spiel, which I was integral. I was without me, no Kenner Spiel. I'll say it now.
I have seen the game, and we're talking about Endeavor Deep Sea. I've seen that game played a lot here over the course of this event.
And not just here, man. That's been a hot game the past few months. Absolutely.
I love to hear it. It is accessible. It's like easy to get into, and then it's highly replayable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're here today just for kind of a break in between all of the big games being played. In a few hours, 3 hours actually, we will see the finale for Splendor being played. And then 2.5 hours after that, that's for 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, daylight time, whatever it is, Pacific time, you know what I mean. And then 8:30 is Acquire. So those will be played. And then at some time way yonder, you'll see what the championship games will be. I'll be there with you then. At some time, hopefully not too early in the morning. So that's what's coming up. Here I thought we would just talk about gaming and where it's at, where it's headed, and bringing in people from the industry to talk about that a little bit. Timm runs conventions. You run board game companies and are power behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But really, board gaming changes on a monthly basis.
Yes, absolutely.
It is a huge difference between where it was, say, 20 years ago. It's not even close.
Yeah.
All right, the internet obviously had a huge change on the industry, but one of the biggest things that's happened in recent years is the sheer tsunami of game releases.
Yes.
Like it is at ridiculous heights, and I don't think even all the different things that have been happening with higher shipping prices and more expenses and tariffs and all doesn't seem to be slowing it down particularly.
No, I mean, it's still popular, and it's kind of like, I think part of it is a response to the digital age that we live in, even though it's kind of coming full circle in that, like, a lot of people are playing board games online now. But I think people need that kind of analog, at the table, face-to-face interaction, because so much of our time is spent on screens.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think one of the bigger things, I guess it's a good problem right these days, is there's so many good games. The quality of a vast majority, and you've probably seen it, right, since you started. I mean, when you started, 25 years ago or whatever, the amount of, like, really good games was, like, small. Now it's, like, really big.
Yeah, I could play every major game from a year in a day.
Right.
Because there was like 5 to 10 major games that came out. Now I can't do it, and I have a year to do it.
yeah.
Part of that is, and the quality has gone up for sure, because back 20 years ago, you guys remember when Days of Wonder first came on the market?
Yep.
Their games came out, people were like, wow, look at the quality. Now you look at it and you go, that's an ordinary game.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's so much harder today for like a great game to stand out because you don't have like people, as big a fan as you are, and even if it's your job to play and review games, you don't have enough time to play everything. Right. And so like inevitably something great throughout the year slips through the cracks. And when you miss one, it's hard to get back and play that. If something doesn't kind of get played within the year, unless it's kind of like a new classic, it might slip through your fingers forever.
Yeah, and it's really hard for like a game to like sort of get to the evergreen status these days too, because like you're saying, like a really good game comes out and then like a month later another really good game comes out, and they just keep getting swallowed up. So to get that longevity to become like an evergreen is sort of shrinking for like a lot of games.
Sure, there's probably the same amount of evergreens as ever, but there's more companies, so not everyone has one.
Right.
And the game that comes and is genre defining, changes it, there's very few of those. In fact, I struggled to name the last one. Obviously, Codenames was a huge game.
Yeah.
Just one, not too far off from that. And they're both lighter party games. And more in the last couple of years, what's the airplane one where the pilot can't talk to the co-pilot?
Sky Team?
Sky Team.
Sky Team has really taken off. But when you get beyond that, you sell 5,000 copies of a game, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that used to be not so good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, as you say, competition is higher, and for something to stand out, it needs to get played again and again. And I think that's why you're seeing some of these like more accessible party games that take less time to play, like really standing out a bit more.
Yeah, and also when you get titles like, say, Wingspan, you're finding those successors or in the same genre coming.
That's the last big one. I apologize. Wingspan.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know.
that too.
Sorry.
But then the Wormspan and Finspan. So a lot of the games also are staying within sort of the same family, and just going like offshoots, making a brother, making a sister of that same title because they know it's so successful with the original one.
Well, I'll never blame a company for doing that, though.
No,
Why
no,
would
no,
you
of
not
course not.
want money?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
I used to, when Uwe Rosenberg was putting out all his polyomino games all together, like one after the other, I was frustrated with them for a little while. And then I was thinking, if somebody wants to publish those and if they are going to sell, then why not? Why not put them out there if people are liking them? So,
Yeah, so that's, again, you say it's a good problem. I'm not as convinced it's good to have so many games out there because what's happening is a lot of good games are just getting completely lost. A great game comes out, and because there's so many great games, it's merely considered good.
True, but a lot of that responsibility falls on the consumer, right? Because we have become better consumers. We have become more educated, better game players, and we know better quality. So it's sort of like it's our fault in a sense because our demands are much higher, right? So even though there's like really, really good games, it's like we want great game. It's like the boundary keeps moving up, I think.
But there's there's so many.
True.
So you might find your favorite game of the year. I might find my favorite. Like right now, I feel pretty confident saying the year 2025 does not have at this moment a standout game. A game that I'm not talking about like for you or for me. I'm talking about one that everyone is talking about and that everyone is playing. You think there is one from 2025?
Well, again, it depends what level. I mean, SETI, like everybody.
Well, that's 24.
Oh, that's our 24 release. Okay, I don't know. You'd know. I mean,
Well, thank you.
it takes a while. It takes a while sometimes for them to filter into the public consciousness too. Like sometimes they're like flash in the pans where they're like popular quickly, but games like SETI that like will last like a little bit longer and people are still playing it a year later. That not to say that is like a evergreen game or a genre defining game or anything like that, but even people still playing it a year later is something to be said.
But there's something to be said back in 1994
okay.
when Magic was released, and you would go to a convention, and everyone at that convention was playing Magic the Gathering.
Right.
When Dominion came out,
Yeah.
you'd go to your game group, and there would be 6 tables of Dominion, and then the 2 tables who hated Dominion and were sick of it.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen as much anymore.
No, not at all.
Now everyone is playing something different. A game will come out and be in bargain bins in months.
Yeah. Yep.
So how does a publisher deal with that?
Well, I mean, I think that you have to consider it in a couple different ways. Like you have to definitely be following the trends, but also trying to be ahead of the trends, trying to be a step ahead. We try to not follow what's happening necessarily. We try to look for the next thing that is going to kind of break the mold in a certain way. And I think that like the more complex a game that you're going to put out there, the bigger a risk it's going to be, because the more time you spend on development, the more time you spend on components and whatnot, and the more accessible a game you have, the broader an audience you're going to have to it. So it's kind of mitigating risk in certain ways, and then also thinking outside of the box. Like one of the things we did with Layers, which is our like 2-player dungeon crawling, like building a labyrinth game behind a screen sort of thing. The designer of that game, he's not in the industry at all. Like he is really, really new to it. And so his idea was just outside of the box. I think many designers, especially if you are a fan of board games, you're going to be, of course, influenced by the games that you love and that you had fun with and stuff like that. So if you can find these like, brilliant minds that have an idea, but are not so influenced by everything else, I think that is a good route to go as well.
But also, I mean, I think the issue is, as a publisher, and I mean, I see a little bit too, being involved with the company, is you're getting a lot of really good submissions. There's so many more game designers, right, as opposed to when you first started, right, Tom? I mean, there's just more people producing games and doing it as well, where back when you started, there's like, 15 designers, and that was it, kind of.
Sure, everyone's a designer now.
Yes.
And Kickstarter has changed the situation to let people publish your own designers if no one else will do it.
Yeah.
But what kind of games? So we're at the tail end, I think, of the roll and write genre. That was very hot.
Yeah,
It's still here, although it has almost moved now into the print and play zone. But obviously, the hottest thing right now, there's a couple hot things. Theme-wise, the hottest thing is the cozy, cutesy animal theme, which is fortunate for you guys because that's KTBG's bread and butter,
Yeah,
right? That's
right.
the whole company.
That's right.
But that's very popular, and I think a lot of that can be point right back towards Wingspan, right? Wingspan was like, hey, people like other stuff,
Right. Yep.
But then the other thing is trick-taking games, right? They're in their prime right now.
Right.
There is a trick-taking game coming out. One just came out. Another one just came out. Another one just came out. There's more coming out than people being born in America.
What I find, though, is interesting is there's a lot of games that are coming out right now that are taking kind of traditional ideas like trick-taking or something like that, or poker, and giving it a twist, you know, in some sort of way. So it's like, you know, a deck builder, but it's something different, or a worker placement, but it's something different. Like, it's like taking traditional mechanisms that we all know and love, and like you can use that as a shorthand when describing a game, but it gives you something new, you know, like it works with timing or it works with this or that, but it changes a traditional mechanism.
Absolutely. And I think one of the advents of the reason that trick-taking games have sort of become popular too, because it seems like we have sort of gone more towards the Japanese market, like with the Tokyo Game Fair and stuff, where it's not that, you know, they just started, but, you know, back when like Love Letter came out, which was discovered, you know, back then, not a whole lot of publishers were actually going overseas and really, you know, tapping into that market. But now, like, everybody is aware of it and tapping into that market. So I think that's why also a lot more trick-taking games and games of that genre are coming into the market as well.
You're right about that. The globalization consistently changes because the modern board game renaissance basically started when Germany and America started making out.
Right.
You know, they were like, hey, we like your games. And then France was like, me too. And Italy, me too.
Yeah.
And for a while, that was what it was. And then Eastern Europe was discovered. And Polish and Czech came in. And then Japan. And when we're like in the heyday of Japan right now.
Yes.
But there are still... Brazil is starting to become a country to be reckoned with. Mexico, India.
Yep.
I mean, Africa is like an entire continent that.
Yep, that's
and
true.
I tell you, I think as they become more popular games from a country, publishers all look to that. They all run to that, and then whatever the kind of culture of games there. So in Japan, small little games was the culture.
Yep.
Becomes a culture that we at the board gaming in whole attract.
Yeah.
But also when you're talking about just the culture of games, it's also the culture, at least here in America. Like when I grew up, when I was a kid, there was what they referred to with Dungeons and Dragons as the Satanic Panic, right?
Oh, yeah.
So culturally in America, it's not you're like a dork or you're like, you know, like a loser or whatever playing games. Like I was when I was growing up, you know, I was one of those people, you know, that everybody thought it just wasn't like cool to be a gamer.
I didn't know there was board games. When you
I played with rocks and sticks on the ground.
No, but you're definitely right. As a kid, and I'm 1 or 2 years younger than Tim, there was, yes, you were a nerd if you played board games, especially if you played with the D&D, that sort of thing, and that is obliterated now. Right. No one cares. My kids, all of them, you know, I go to them sometimes. I'm like, hey, you know that when I was a kid, girls never watched anime, and they were like, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
like, I don't know either, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
And now it's just cool. And it's one of those kind of things that I'm not just a big fan of it, but, you know, you sort of have to give credit for even like, you know, Cards Against Humanity, right? I'm not too a big fan of it.
Okay, Tim's opinions do not reflect those in the game.
Why, you're a big fan of it?
Oh, I hate the game.
That's what I just said. I said I'm not a big fan of it.
I know, but you're about to say something good about it.
Well, what it did is it brought more people into the hobby, right? I mean, regardless of maybe our opinions of the game, it was huge across college campuses, and it got a lot more people playing games, which of course opened them up to more games in the world and brought more gamers into the hobby. But now, as you see, it's self-weeding out or whatever, right? The Cards community has got pushed to the side, and people discovered other things. But it did. I thought it was good for the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get people playing games and sitting around a table and stuff like that and kind of seeing the potential fun of a board game night, I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm with you on Cards Against Humanity, but and I guess you as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all,
but it did do something. Like, I mean, people were talking about it. It was a phenomenon, you know what I mean? And I think people go on to like other games and sort of see, you know, what fun can be had, you know, putting down your phones and just playing a game. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's good. Like, you know, when I owned my board game cafe, I was so happy. One of the things that made me really happy was seeing like literally 3 generations at the table playing together.
Cards Against Humanity?
No, not Cards.
So little Johnny, what card did you play?
Hey, Grandma, what does that mean?
Okay. I just had to clarify.
It was so nice when you see 3 generations sitting at the same table, right?
Yeah.
Because that really that's really families getting together to play games, and it's such it just made me feel so good seeing that, and it also made me feel really good seeing like kids like 14 to like 20 playing games instead of on their computers or, you know, playing video games, that they're actually playing together, you know, socializing and playing games. So I just think there's a big cultural shift here in America where gaming has really become part of people's lives, because and we're also getting when I went to this resort, this workout place this past summer, people aren't saying, you know, like Pictionary, Outburst, or even Catan, like what's your first? A lot of people are saying Wingspan. So it's kind of like the intro level to how people are coming into like Euro hobbies has sort of elevated now too, where it used to be like everybody's first game was sort of Catan. Yeah. Most people told me Wingspan. So it's kind of cool, right? How it's getting a little bit higher.
Well, there'll be games like that probably for each sort of different, you know, decade or so that will be, you know, like it was the Ticket to Rides, the Catans, those sorts of games that would bring people in. And then as, you know, as time rolls on, Dominion would have been one for some people. Right, and, you know, now Wingspan, you know, or something else. Like it'll be the next big thing that'll become a phenomenon. Like Splendor. Like Splendor is so accessible. People can play it very easily. I play it with my parents. I play it with my nieces and nephews. And like anybody can get that game to the table. And so I think there's always those opportunities to find that next great gateway game.
And especially talking about those games that we're speaking about now, I think, you know, some people have pushed back in the board game industry right now about how when they started going into Target and all those kind of things. But to me, that was a good thing, right? When you're bringing our hobby, whatever, of those Euro games now into Targets and stuff.
I am mind blown when people are opposed to that.
I know. I never understood that either. But you know, there was a big pushback, right? People were, oh, why isn't it?
Well, that was more so 20 years ago when we first started getting games. They were called German games because that's where they would mostly come from. But for a while there was a trend of calling them TGOO, these games of ours. And I was always opposed to that because it was so snooty. It was like, we have these games that you're playing that. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that has become better where there's way less gatekeeping now and it's way more...
There's always going to be gatekeeping, but I think it's changed. For example, I used to rage on wargamers because I thought they were very gatekeepy. I was like, you're going to die off. So then they started dying off. And now wargamers have become very friendly because they're realizing
they need that next generation.
They got nothing, right?
Yeah.
They got to get people. Yeah. But I'm seeing that across the board. And board gaming is a fairly accepting hobby.
Yes.
We tolerate some pretty... Some people that the rest of the world might not tolerate. We were talking about that. That person might not be someone who the only place they feel accepted is in board gaming.
Absolutely.
The board gaming hobby has shifted over the past couple of years now. Definitely costs have gone up. At the same time, Kickstarter has made a huge chunk of the hobby. That's just the way it is. Some of the top games that come out every year at Kickstarter, or GameFound, lots of games are being crowdfunded. Games have been starting to be shipped, and CMON definitely was the forefront of, hey, you just got 6 boxes, and inside is 8,000 pieces.
Yes.
And people are like, that's a lot. And now people own 40 of these games. Do you foresee that, especially with I'm not saying the fall of CMON, but definitely the shrinking of CMON, and the fall of Mythic, and a lot of these companies getting bit by these giant games? Do you foresee that slowing down, or do you think we're still going to see giant boxes?
There will always, I think there will always be a market for that, but I think that the risk for the publisher versus as a consumer, who has time for, you know, a 3 hour game, or like to make use of like a Simon game that has like 10 different expansions, sort of like in the all-in pledge or something like that. Like, are you ever going to get to all that? Some people will. But I think
I still
that,
argue it's like 1%.
oh
And
yeah,
I'm not kidding.
No,
I'm not exaggerating. I think
you're right.
1% of people will finish campaign games, play all the boxes that come.
Yeah. I worked for Simon for a few years, and I was not of the Kickstarter world at that time. I was much more of a marketing behind the scenes sort of person, and so like
He ruined it. It's his fault.
I got out while it was still okay. But you know, at that time, it was eye-opening for me, the amount of FOMO that board gamers would have about like all the new content in a game, and we would get angry messages from people who were saying, oh, like, how can I be expected to get all of these things and play it? And I myself personally, I would think, well, you don't have to. Like, there's no requirement for you. Like, I mean, but people are completionists. Like, I mean, I think board gamers are hobbyists and collectors. You know what I mean? Like, I've got games. I've got a collection of like Ravensburger games from like the 80s, and I just like to collect them, and I don't always play them, but I like to add them to my collection just to have them. And I think that there's an aspect of our hobby that is playing games and getting together and socializing and stuff. And I think there are collectors as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
But the thing about it is, I think we create the monster, because we're the ones who are going to keep buying those super big deluxe games. We don't
Gotta run out of room at
I know
some point.
we don't need them. It's over excess. We could spend our money on plenty of other things, right? I'm including myself in all this. But it's like, I don't need to get that super duper deluxe Arc Nova coming out. Did I order it? Yes. I don't need that super duper deluxe Agricola coming out. Did I order it? Yes. I don't need another War
Okay,
of the
well, then
Rings.
stop saying we and just say I.
I understand. Okay. Well, I'm not the only one pledging so. But you know what I'm saying? So we're like our own worst enemies, because we just, the companies know they can do it, because there will be people to buy it.
I think that what it'll come down to is, as long as it's financially viable, those games will be there. And as long as there's an audience for them, they'll be there. I think that because there are so many games coming out every year, and because we have less and less time as we get older and different responsibilities, companies, publishers will be a little bit more hesitant to put out those things. I think so. Well, look at, as we mentioned, Simon. Like, I mean, Simon has this entire model based on these like big epic games with like, you know, a ton of extras and plastic, you know, and you know, they're in the trouble that they are in, the downsizing.
Correct.
And I think we're going to see, I'm not a naysayer. I think that the hobby is going to be fine. But I think we're going to see a lot more downsizing. I mean, in this past year, we've seen tycoon games buying everyone right and left. They bought, and they're going to buy more before it's over. I'm sure of it. I know that they're out there, and they said it. They're hunting down evergreens. But they're not the only ones. You know, Asmodee is still has a pocketbook that can buy stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot of companies retire and or go out of business. And I don't know that's a bad thing. I don't think we need 10,000 different board game companies. Every time Asmodee buys someone, or Tabletune, you know, Tycoon Games buys someone, whoever, everyone's like, oh no, this is the end of small publishers. I'm like, but 16 started in the time that company was bought.
Yeah.
I was at Gen Con. There's no shortage of small publishers.
No, there isn't at all.
Yeah.
But let me ask you something, Tom. So with like, you know, Tycoon buying those games, right? You know, they're buying a lot of older titles and stuff. How, like, what have you seen over the years as far as like when a new audience will be available for that game that is sort of played out? You know what I mean? Like how long does it take for a new audience to discover that's new and then to buy it again?
Sometimes it's amazing. Like, I still remember when Android Netrunner was released. That was based on Netrunner, an old game that came out that was overshadowed by Magic. But when Fantasy Flight released it, people went berserk. They're like, what is this game? If people forgot the old one, then the new one can have its own life, I
Yeah,
think.
well, like for instance,
Blood Rage was a replacement of an old game.
correct. Let's take like Rising Sun. We were talking about these big boxes in Simon. So Tycoon bought Rising Sun. So Rising Sun has sort of lost its shelf life, right?
Sure.
To say, because that audience has bought it, played out. Will there be a new audience to buy it again? Or
I think so. Look at Hero Quest. Hero Quest was sold everywhere.
But Hero Quest was sorry to interrupt, but like Hero Quest had like a huge nostalgic following as well. Like a lot of people who are probably buying it now are people who had it when they were kids.
Well, right, but I'm saying, so you can wait 20 years and you have the nostalgic factor.
Right.
Especially if it's out of print. I don't know, 5 years, 3 years, that's trickier, but I used to, a long time ago, I made up the Vasel's law that said, if a game is great, it will be reprinted. That law is bogus at this point. If a game breathed at all at some point in its lifespan, they're going to reprint it. I mean, publishers are reprinting. It's rare to find a game that's been out of print for 10 years. That was, people say, is a good game. And of course, I'm taking out of account the designers refusing IPs, things like that. But there's a game that I think I have to word this properly. There's a game I thought would never be reprinted, and I know it's being reprinted now.
Can you say it?
I cannot.
Don't bring stuff like that up.
Cards Against Humanity. It's Cards Against Humanity.
Well, you can't do that.
I'll tell you off camera. Okay? But what I'm saying is, there is things that I've said, well, anything can be reprinted, but here's 40 games that will never be reprinted. Several of those games that I thought would never be reprinted are being reprinted.
Well, look at somebody like Reiner Knizia, right? His whole model is constantly making sure his games, once a license runs out, he's whatever he does, his marketing team, whatever, gets it out there, somebody picks it up and reprints it again.
Yeah.
That's his whole company, right?
But I wonder, like, it's interesting because, like, there was a time, like, when I was getting into gaming, a Reiner Knizia game, like, you'd see that, you'd be like, ooh, Reiner Knizia. But I wonder if, like, this new, generation of gamers, like, a name like that still has the same kind of pull.
But you know what he does, kind of what I was talking about, like with Rising Sun, it's still going to be Rising Sun, but Reiner Knizia, a lot of times the new publishers will give it a different name and a different look and a different theme. So in essence, it's almost a new game for that new audience.
That's true. Yeah.
He does sneak his out. I always get confused when Reiner Knizia comes out with stuff because I'm like, okay, what's that a reprint of?
I know.
Oh, that one's new. And you're like, oh, that one's not. That's new.
Surprised, right? Yeah.
It's surprising. We recently had an opportunity to do a reprint of a game, and we were talking about it, we were discussing it, and we wondered, we posited, like, when a game is done, is it just done? Is there a time when a game has run its course and it's like reprinting it is not the right thing?
Well, actually, you did reprint. Okay, so you reprinted Endeavor.
Yes.
Which was a redone version of
Age of Sail.
Age of Sail.
Yeah.
And it did fine.
It did pretty well.
But then you came out with a sequel to that, which was really a completely different game in many ways.
Oh, absolutely.
And that has surpassed Endeavor, or will, if it hasn't.
I'm sure it has. Like, I mean, you can take old ideas. Like, I mean, I haven't looked how Valhalla is doing, the new Blood Rage, but
it's doing fine.
But not like what you would expect.
Well, part of that I think the whole thing could be marketed better.
But in terms of Deep Sea, like, I mean, it took like solid mechanisms and then put it on a great theme that people really could get behind.
A more palatable theme for everybody.
That was like one of the things that was really important for us to do, is have like that awesome mechanism, but in a theme that we were not conflicted about. And then also just like the replayability, like the opportunity for every game to be different. And then 10 different missions that you can play solo, co-op, or competitive. Like all of that kind of built in, made it to be a big hit. But I'll tell you, Endeavor Deep Sea did well on first Game Found, and then we did a Kickstarter for it. But it's really been since it's been out there and since people have been playing it that it's really sort of had this like groundswell.
But that's a rarity. Most games that does not happen. Most games, the Kickstarter delivery happens and then the game instantly dies.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, this one's doing well, and it's also nice because it fits in that category that I like of games where it's all in one box, albeit slightly too large of a box to fit with the rest of the box on the shelf, by the way.
It is, yeah.
I had to find its own shelf for it because it didn't fit next to.
We like big boxes.
It wasn't the same. So I wanted to put it next to How to Save the World because they look the same and everything, and it didn't fit. That's on you.
I'm gonna take that note home.
I'm gonna say this okay. This is what I want in the future. I said this. I'm gonna say it again. Get all the game companies in the world just get together and have a summit and standardize box size. That's all I'm asking.
10 boxes. 10
That's it,
boxes
right.
all the way.
I would actually say 5, but I'll take 10.
There you go. No,
Okay,
that is
because
true.
I'm getting tired of this company being like, ooh. And the worst of all is the box that is a slight rectangle but looks like a square. So that when you put the lid on, it doesn't fit. You're like, wait, this doesn't make any sense.
That's ridiculous. You know, it's funny because here's talking about like, you know, we're talking about the where gaming is going in the future and speaking about boxes. Here's something I had, a question I had thought about several years ago. And there were 3 things, and you can tell me your thoughts on this. So to me, there was sort of a race and where was the future going between something like, say, Broken Token, those kind of inserts, or 3D printing, or the companies stepping up and making the inserts. So where do you think it has come and where do you think it is going to end up? One of those people has to win. Do you not think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can correct me here, but I am under the impression that molded inserts is one of the most expensive game components, parts of a game component there is.
It is, but also like when you announce that you're going to have a sweet game trays insert or anything like that, people go nuts for it. You know, what I mean? It makes a huge difference. So like right off the bat, like we get on our Kickstarters, people like asking us about the inserts and like what it's going to be.
I'm still convinced that that's a small minority of the hobby, or that it is a hobby.
Yeah.
That it's not like most people are like, insert what? Oh, it's in the box, isn't it? I don't know that one will win over the other. The 3D printing is still not mainstream yet. It's getting there.
It isn't, but it was just my question. My question was, okay, you know, there was a couple of companies who did like those inserts, right? So you would buy the conventions out of the cut wood or whatever. But then like 3D printing came and you're like, ooh, that's pretty cool. And then people started doing their own. But now then all of a sudden companies like Game Trays and other companies started stepping up and like making good quality inserts themselves. And I was always like, okay, well, who's going to win this race? You know, but you still think all 3 will be viable?
I think it's tricky. Well, the thing about Game Trays, you mentioned Game Trays. Game Trays is a very specific company, right? So if you work with Game Trays, you have to put their logo on the box. You have to give them credit and you have to pay them money. And everyone's using them, so their queue is very far back. So you're going to use them or not. So then you might try to use rip-off Game Trays company, whoever they might be, or do it yourself, which requires an engineering degree. No joke. But they also take up space. They make games bigger by very nature.
They do, but has that become an expectation now on the consumer's part?
It comes an expectation from the Kickstarter / GameFound community, which is only a subset of gaming.
But if you play like a game that through whatever trays it has makes setup so much easier and tear down so much easier, and then go to a game that has no insert or like, you know, just a perfunctory sort of thing, I people certainly prefer that. Like, I mean, it makes it so much easier to get a game to the table and to put a game away. And so it comes back to like, how often are you going to get this game to the table?
Right, but also you in particular, I know you're one of those type, I do too, mostly just throws away all those old cardboard inserts, right? Because you just put it in the box. But has that diminished where you're not doing that as much anymore, where the inserts are better?
Well, you don't ask me because I throw away almost everything.
Do you really? You still do, huh?
No, well, I'll tell you what. I think an insert needs to hold the pieces, whether the game is flat or horizontal.
I agree.
If it does not hold it when I stand it up on its side, that's gone. If it has a nice lid that snaps on, that's great. And also some of these, and Game Trays is a defender of this for sure, where they're like, ooh, look how cutesy. We put all these things around that. I'm like, you're wasting so much space. And then you made an insert, and that insert doesn't fit in the box because you game traded to death, while the 3D printer guy's like, I got this.
Yeah.
And the 3D printer guy's like, you could fit Gloomhaven and Frosthaven in the same box. I'm like, that's not possible. And they'll show you, and by the way, it's not possible, but I'm exaggerating, but there are games who I swore you would never get the expansion in the box.
Yeah.
And some 3D printer guy has figured it out.
Yes, they have. And I always wondered why some of these companies don't work with these people.
3D printing does make a game heavier, though. Like literally heavier.
It does, but the design, and then when you like some companies, they upgrade them. I don't want to point out any particular companies, but and their inserts are horrible, and it's a
I agree.
deluxe game, and
I can point out companies. I have no problem saying when I see a bad insert.
okay. Well, like for example, I did with the City of Gods, Teotihuacan, did the all in, and their inserts were just absolutely horrible, and I'm just like. That's people paid a lot of money for that, and you would think that there would be more effort to put into that. Now they went back, and now they're doing the whole this and that. I'm just like, well, and then I look at a company like Kinson Key with Galactic Cruise, and I just think they did everything right off the bat.
It's still a giant box though.
It's a huge box, but it's like the insert was good, everything was good, and again. Talking about the future, are our expectations going to be more on the company to get it right the first time and not make mistakes?
No. Humans make mistakes.
I understand humans make mistakes, but it's what is their sort of responsibility? At what level can they make mistakes?
I think it goes in relation to how good the game is, right? A very good game, good mechanically, like highly replayable game, you can forgive some of the, whether it's packaging or art or whatever, if it's not as good. Really great art, a great insert, people might buy it for that, but they won't forgive, mistakes as easily, I think.
Okay.
I think that like a beautiful presentation, like people will get that out and love it and want it on the table and stuff like that. But if the game's not fun and it's not replayable, I think that gets shelved more quickly than a great game that has maybe some problems with like production or whatever.
I would agree.
But that's just my opinion more than anything else.
Well, that's everything we're saying in this video, unless anyone thinks otherwise, right? So what is your opinion on the future of where games are sold?
Where they're sold.
Well, what I mean by, okay, so in the 20 years ago, the big debate was, do you buy games at your local game store, or do you buy from these newfangled online game stores? And then that came and went. Most of the online game stores have lost to one online game store called Amazon. Right. And so then a lot of companies were like, tried to work around that, but now many companies are selling through Amazon, or they're selling direct, or they're selling via Kickstarter, although Kickstarter, unless your home company's model on Kickstarter, it is only a small percentage of sales, basically, from the whole. Right. So local game stores exist. Target exists. Barnes & Noble's somehow miraculously still exists. Where do you buy games in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it is going to depend on what people want. Like, I mean, do you want the lowest price? Do you want to go in and talk to somebody and like get their opinion? Like, do you want a trusted store owner who is going to say, I sold you this last week. If you like that, this is the next one for you, that sort of thing. So it is still going to be, I think, an individual choice. And I will say that I think people, much like they want to get off their screens to play board games, I think they want to get into stores and take board games home and play them that moment.
Absolutely. I mean, people absolutely do, but I noticed, when I had my store, people come in and they do their phone shopping, right? They're price comparing all the time.
Of course.
And you can't blame people for doing that, right? Because if you can get it delivered right to your doorstep for even $5 cheaper, we all got to save money here and there. But it's the local stores selling board games. The price is going up. It's much more expensive. It's easier to get with Amazon, and a lot of stores are converting to like TCGs and CCGs and all that kind of stuff. That's where like a lot of the money is. So it'd be nice to support your local board game store, but they're sort of their numbers are dwindling, where they're just board game stores, because it's very hard to stay with just board games, right? Because CCGs float a lot of stores.
I think that's been true for as long as I've been in the hobby. Is like I would go into a store and like, I mean, there'd be a board game section, but there'd always be, TCGs, CCGs, that sort of thing. So, I mean, that's always going to be somewhat of the lifeblood of, brick and mortar stores. But, I think that there was a time when a board game store was not welcoming to people and not necessarily appealing for families to go into or that. And I think that while those stores still sort of exist, there are more options. Like I mean, it's hard to say like more board game stores are opening up, but the ones that are still opening are either changing their decor to make it more welcoming for an average consumer, or if they've existed for years, they're trying to lean more into that sort of welcoming environment, whether you can have game nights or whatever, to bring people in, giving people reasons.
Right, but it's one of those kind of things where you look at like Target or you look at Barnes and Nobles. I think those are going to be actually become bigger in their
Oh,
board game variety because people aren't just going in there to buy a game like you would at just a board game store. You're going there to buy clothes for your kids for school, and it's like, oh, let's stop by the game section, or you know what I mean. So they always have, or Barnes and Nobles, you got all these books in different sections. So I just think that is going to that industry, in my opinion, is going to grow bigger than a local game store.
I'm not opposed to that one growing bigger. I like that. By the way, you did mention trading card games, collectible card games. We are now in the biggest boom of that since the 90s.
Oh, absolutely.
There are more. I mean, I've never seen collectible card games as hot as they are right now.
Yes, and you know the thing about it is what I've found out through friends who own stores still and stuff is people like car dealerships are having like Pokemon cards, like when so people are like, there's all these.
Didn't you see the little booth out there when you went? I don't know if you saw it when you walked to Paris Hotel towards the cake machine. That's how I measure where things are. There's a Pokemon thing there.
Is it real? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's become real mainstream. Everybody's getting them. So it's not stepping on board games, but it's just, I think it reaches a much wider audience because you can have so many different IPs and up-to-date current IPs with card games instantly, right, than you can with board games.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting that you're saying like Target and Barnes and Noble, and for exactly what the reason you're saying, like people will go in there for one thing, but they'll see the board game section,
Correct,
and even if they don't immediately buy it, like if board games are relegated to just FLGSs and people who would never normally go in there are never seeing them, then they're never going to see kind of the new wave of board games. So it's like maybe they don't buy one the first time, but like it plants that seed and lets people know, like, wow, there's more than just this or that.
That's right.
There's a whole world.
And also when they're getting their flyers and stuff, like the sales and the specials, amongst the school clothes and the kitchenware, there's board games, right? Like.
Yeah, I'm encouraged. I listened to a lot of business podcasts, and I was listening to the fall but rise again on Barnes and Noble, because like 5-10 years ago, everyone just assumed Barnes and Noble was on its way out. Amazon kicked them around the block, and yet they brought in a CEO who managed to bring it back because they made it a destination place to go to. I don't know if it will ever be back where it is, but I have hope in that same regard for board gaming in general. I think board gaming is going through definitely a tough year, right? With tariffs, rising costs across the board. And a lot of companies have gone out of business, although not as many as you think, but it's just you see them when they go out of business, right?
Yeah.
But I think, especially seeing how Gen Con was very big and grandiose, and I enjoyed it. Was it bigger than 24? I don't know, but I also didn't see people running around crying and screaming.
Right.
From the consumer end, people are still buying a ton of games. It's just spread out more now. So to me, I'm not trying to be a Pollyanna, but I think it's positive for the future.
Oh, absolutely. But not necessarily also talking about buying board games. What about playing? Like, look at Board Game Arena now, right? Look how many people, or that's allowing people to play games, right? Because like there are games that are coming out on Board Game Arena like quick.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, how did that even get on Board Game Arena?
Before sometimes it hits retail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How did that even get? So I think, what is your opinion on that? Do you think that's going to like it really explode and become really huge, and maybe unfortunately people will get away from the face-to-face?
All stats show that online board gaming in every fashion sells more copies of the physical game.
Yeah.
Okay, but the audience is getting bigger too, right? Like,
sure, there might be, you'll see more people playing them, but that's more people playing them, not less people playing the board game.
Right, but so she's saying that there is a direct correlation, the amount of people playing board games, and they go out and they buy oh wow, that's fantastic.
I mean, even if it sells just a few games,
right,
it's selling more than you had before. So you would know more.
Yeah, well, we took Nano Toridori, which was like a huge hit on Board Game Arena, and we brought it and localized it in North America. And what's great about that game is that like online, super quick, fast to play, and people were playing it tons online, which gave us like a lot of confidence to bring it here. But it's still a game that you want to sit around. It's like a conversation game, you know. It's just a card game, like a hand-shedding card game. But it's the type of game that you want to sit around with your family or your friends in like a casual setting. And like in that sort of sense, like a game like that is, in terms of a play experience, much worse on Board Game Arena. Like Board Game Arena makes some games more palatable to play in that it does all the setup for you, it does all the scoring for you, and you can play at any time where you don't have to get your friends together necessarily. You can get online and just play with people. But with like something like Nanatori Dori, I enjoyed playing it online. As soon as I played it, I was like, oh yeah, we should make this game. But it's much more enjoyable to play sitting around a table. So I can see that has that effect, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So bringing back the question to you, where's your outlook on board gaming in general?
Well, I mean,
you're not allowed to be negative because you're
no. But we're positive. Like, I mean, we are. Like, I'll tell you. Like, I think, generally speaking, I can't speak for everybody, but certainly for us, like a time like the pandemic actually worked for board games.
That's true.
You know, I
yes.
mean, so many industries suffered at that time, but you know, board gaming in general ended up doing very well. And I think that right now, what we're feeling a little bit is that a lot of industries did suffer. And so like in general, the economy is a little tougher for some people. And so like now we're seeing a little bit of that impact of, you know, residual pandemic sort of ideas, as that people have just a little bit less money. But I mean, there are like it is growing, I think, and it is going to be better and better. I think that you do have to look at the fact that there are so many games that come out in a given year, and so there's more competition. And it's like, as we were talking, like, is there one game that stands out every year? And like, is there one from this year? Maybe not, but maybe games are reaching a bigger audience in general.
Yes.
And so I think that is a positive thing to think about. And I think that board game companies, like publishers who do their research and are, you know, responsible about the games that they put out there, don't just sign everything, but put games out there with a purpose. I think the future's very, very bright, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, you know, it seems to me that like a few years ago there was way less events, and like now even smaller events that are all about gaming and stuff like that. Like, I mean, the hunger for fans of the hobby to come out and play is still very strong.
Oh yeah, that's the point I was going to bring up. That's a good point, because like especially at Dice Tower West, I think at East as well, is the amount of people that is their first board game convention ever. The numbers for us are high every single year. So it's so encouraging, like you're saying, to see people all the time finding that this thing exists, you know, and you just know once they come to a board game convention and get to see the community in its glory, or, you know, for lack of a better term or whatever, they're even more hooked and more encouraged by the community. So yeah, with the amount of events, with Board Game Arena, with everything, yeah, board gaming is in a great place. I'm really happy with it because it's been a lifelong passion of mine. But it's just great to see that there are so many different opportunities like this, the WSBG, right? If you're a hardcore gamer, if you play 200-300 times a year of a certain game on Board Game Arena, now you can come in live and see where you stand against other people. You know what I mean? So whatever level you're at, whatever you want to sort of accomplish in board gaming, there's something out there for you.
Well, there you go, folks. Just some thoughts. And I mean, obviously, this is a very cursory, top-level view, just talking about things. But I'm excited. I'm hopeful. I'm having a good time. And, of course, we will talk more about these things in the future. Thank you guys for
thanks for having us
today.
Yeah, it's been great.
And like I said, in just 2 hours from now, 2 hours and 10 minutes, you're going to see the Splendor World Championships. So
there you go.
We'll see you then.
That was the final game last year, wasn't it?
No, 2 years ago. Last year was Dune Imperial.
Oh, that's right. 2 years ago.
Hopefully it's the final game this year.
Yeah.
Anyhow, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Timm Metivier.
I'm Shawn Jackman.
See y'all.
Hey
folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for watching this video. Check out our channel. We have a lot of videos on our channel. We have live videos that go up each week, from live Q&As to videos where we take a look at the newest stuff on Kickstarter, crowd surfing, to top 10 lists and more. There's lots of stuff on this channel. We encourage you to explore it. You can find out more at our website, dicetower.com. I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for watching another video on the Dice Tower.